ending the third quarter of the year and heading into the fourth quarter of the year soon, a couple weeks. Anyway, I just wanted to welcome you all. And, this is your time to ask questions of me about voiceover. And hopefully I can give you an answer. And if I can't, I hope to be able to refer you to someone who can give you an answer. So if you do have a question, if you would be so kind as to raise your Zoom hand, which is in the React uh, drop down or pop up menu down at the bottom of your screen. And that way I can call on you in kind of an orderly fashion. And then if you're not the one asking a question, if you can mute yourself, that would be fantastic. Um, Goodness, I'm so happy to see people here. Um, all right, all of you, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to ask any questions that you might have. Um, Otherwise, we can just sit here and stare at each other. Edward, do you go by Ed?
I go by
Yes,
Ned.
I do.
Oh, Ed. I
I'm
mean,
sorry,
me and Ed should go and start a band. I like that.
yeah. Yeah, Ed Phillips, if you'd be so kind, can you mute your
I
microphone?
can.
We'll do that.
I
Okay,
will do that.
that's great. Thank you so much. Edward,
Hey, how you doing? I
I
get Ed.
remember that the other night you told me how to pronounce your name, your last name, but I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's like gimmick with a D at the front.
Dimmick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, Dimmick.
Like pandemic, but
But better.
yeah, everyone learned how to pronounce it in 2020. It was
Oh,
kind of
that's
great.
so
But
fun. That's fantastic. That's great.
um,
What can I do for you? It's nice to see you.
yeah, you guys too. I'm gonna put my here and give you kind of like a short-winded little history or something like that. I got background as a copywriter. My wife and she's from Finland. We moved to Finland in 2020 for a few years. We had a kid there. We moved back last year. Um, when I was there, it was very hard to find work, and I would have these like 3 to 6 month contracts the entire time I was there. Pretty much couldn't find a regular job, but I had these contracts over and over again. And on the last day of one of these contracts at this creative agency, like there was a guy doing a really, really, really terrible voiceover, and I just kind of put my like literally put my foot in the door because I knew somebody that was in the booth, and I'm just like, can you please give me like one shot at doing a voiceover? And long story short, like I became the voice of a Finnish chain of gas stations for a year, which is just like completely, it's just like the most Monty Python kind of thing to ever like. It's very Mad Libs because it's like you're the voice of a Finnish gas station. It was weird. I don't know.
But that's very funny. Mad Lib.
Yeah, I was really, really kind of didn't see any of that coming. But
Yeah.
it kind of, I will try and cut to the chase on this one. But like, I got a lot of work when I was there, and by a lot of work, I mean like every 2 to 3 months, like something small would happen. And because like I'm not natural born Finnish citizen, like I got some of the English language stuff, which usually meant I got paid like at a pretty lower rate, blah blah blah. But like I managed to book some gigs.
Yeah.
And I thought, and this might be naive, and I guess I don't even know if this is a question or like a reality check or like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Or hey, what am I doing right? Or, how do I move forward with what I've currently done? But I've got a lot of clips from when we lived there.
Uh-huh.
Long story short, we moved back because I got a job offer back in the States. I've got like a page full of clips. I feel like I kind of did things backwards where I've got like I booked some gigs and now like when I'm back here, like I'm trying to find some sort of representation and it just feels like I'm sort of starting all over again. And I'm gonna put my voiceover page on my website like in the chat thing to um yeah, I don't know, man. Like I any advice about how to try and get started? Because I feel like I kind of did it kind of bass backwards, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's no one prescribed way to get
Yeah, yeah.
over. There just isn't. A lot of people sort of take the acting route. Some people take the having worked in production route and did just exactly what you did, kind of sit in and go, can I just read this? And it turns into something. And so there's no one prescribed way, and that said, I think that in the climate today, and voiceover is, I'm sure you've experienced, is extraordinarily competitive, because there are, I mean, for a few reasons. There's just a flood of people in the market, right? It used to really be located in LA, New York, Chicago, at the kind of the advertising centers of the United States, with some smaller but meaningful uh, advertisers throughout the country in various regions where there were sort of subgroups, right? And uh, so it's just extraordinarily competitive. And now anybody can do voiceover from anywhere in the world. If you've got a good microphone and a decent treated space, you can do it from anywhere. So you can imagine just the exponential growth in competition. Um, I used to, being a Los Angeles voice talent and getting called into casting offices like the Voice Caster or Elaine Craig or Kalmanson and Kalmanson. We were kind of guaranteed to be one of maybe 20 people reading on a spot. So you can imagine how good your odds were of booking something. Now it's in the hundreds. And I'm confident even in the thousands for how many people we're reading against. So, all that said, um, uh, it used to be that there was only one way to get into a career in voiceover, and that was with by signing with an agency, and that you receive all of your audition opportunities from that agency, and that's kind of how it worked. And that was the thing. It's like, well, if I land an agent, then I have a real shot at getting work. And I have to say, it's not that anymore. It's not that. Um, and I say that as a represented person whose work has dropped precipitously over the last decade. And so it's not necessarily the thing that one ought to be aiming for, certainly not in the beginning, because the competition to sign with an agency is so fierce. It's different. When I first signed with an agency, I had no experience. I mean, I had done probably, a couple of local spots only because I sang the jingle on them, and so they asked me, like, you want to read this? Sure. But that was the only experience I had, and it was just a different time. But I was also in my early 20s, and that's a very different thing, too. I think that agencies are and still and will continue to look for young talent, right? Just constantly, right? And it doesn't matter the experience level. It's, do they have raw talent? Can they grow into the role, of being a voice actor? And only time will tell on those things, but they're willing to take chances because they got stuff they need kids to read on. So I think what I would say to you is there are many other things to do before searching for an agent, before trying to find representation. And coaching is on that list. And the trick to that is to find good coaching that is not going to break your pocketbook to the extent that you can't do anything else with your life. You know, um, I don't think that you have to have constant coaching, but I think you have to have ongoing coaching, if you will. I mean, I make a distinction there, right? It's like you take a class, you learn some stuff, you use it, you practice it, You find other means of auditioning opportunity. And we can talk about that. And then you find out little spaces in the work that you're doing that need improvement, and so you go get a little bit more coaching and you work on that little piece of the thing. So you're kind of constantly evaluating what it is that you're doing by virtue of what people are telling you, the feedback that you're getting, all that kind of stuff. Um, and you're fortunate that you have samples of the work that you've done because you can build a page, because you can build a Voice 123 profile, because you can submit to rosters, which is different than submitting to an agency.
Oh, okay.
And so, um, and you can take advantage of LinkedIn. You can take advantage of um, CRM programs, that allow you to communicate with people directly that you perhaps want to work with or might have the type of work that you want to do. So you're fortunate in that way. But I would say that there's still a lot more work that you need to do in terms of getting better at the thing and finding out uh, what you particularly bring to whatever genre you're working on. And that's really kind of a process of self-discovery about what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and what you want to do and how those things kind of marry together. Um, Before you get to the place where you are making demos, spending money on demos, which is so expensive, right? In an attempt to uh, sign with an agency. There again, in this sense too, there's no clear cut path. Some people get agency representation before they have a demo. Um, some people make demos way too early and then find, an agent has some interest and they say, but you have to redo your demo. That's just not competitive, right? There are just all kinds of things. And I could not begin to tell any one of you what your path is going to be. There's no way to know. Um, you just have to remain curious and keep taking steps forward. And I would say that the goal at the moment is to get better at it by virtue of coaching. And I am a proponent of group coaching before individual coaching because you learn so much from watching other people and listening to other people that sometimes when we're the one on mic, we're just like we've lost our minds, and we're just like trying to get through the copy and we don't really hear, what's going on. So finding some coaching opportunities and um, and then finding opportunities to audition. And again, you can do that by way of some pay to play sites. I always recommend v123pros.com for their course on how to build your Voice 123 page. It's an excellent course. They update it all the time. Um, and it really talks about the algorithms of that site so that you can start getting auditioning opportunity that's actually right for you, as opposed to just having kind of random stuff thrown at you like spaghetti on the wall. Um, so that's kind of my perspective in a nutshell. And that isn't to say that at some point you might not be like, you know what, I feel like I've gotten enough work and I have enough experience, and I'm bringing in enough money that I am attractive to a talent agency. And so I'm gonna now focus on pursuing that particular avenue of voiceover. So I know that's kind of a lot and very general, but that is what I would say.
No, yeah, help. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you for the question. It's a good one. It's evergreen, man. It's a good one. Ed Phillips. Oh, you
Yeah,
have a question. Is it Ron? I'm sorry. Yeah. Did you have a question or no? I thought your hand was up before. I'm sorry. Can't hear you there.
It was. I'm happy to go
no,
in
go ahead.
line in
Go ahead,
turn.
please.
All right.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead, Ron, and then we'll come to you, Ed, and
Okay.
come to you, Diana. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So we spoke previously on an introductory call,
Yes.
and we spoke about finding your own voice and your own style.
Mhm.
Um, so as I'm thinking through this, I'm thinking, well, Harry, I'm 68 years old. I have a senior voice. But I don't really want to do funeral home commercials, forever. And I can do different things with my voice. So um, my fear is just having this plain senior voice that can probably be replicated with AI. And, a lot of the lower end type commercials end up just using that. So should I start developing a style that's a little more what I consider different or mm, um, I know it sounds crazy, but I can do a pretty good drag race commercial voice, and I have more fun with that than just your usual sort of plain commercial style. So
Well,
I guess the question is about developing my own style and how do I get there?
um, yeah, it's a really good question. Your who I would say it's not really about developing a style in voiceover. It's actually about knowing who you are. And let me disavow you of this notion that you just have a senior voice. I'm 63. I've been doing this for 40 years. I get auditions for moms, grandmothers, elderly people. It runs the gamut. This is one of the beautiful things about voiceover um, is that people really aren't looking at us while we're working. And they don't look at us when our audition is received by them. So I would say this. I would seek um, to actually know and comprehend what your voice actually is and what the attributes of your voice are. Because that's what we're after. We're after the attributes of your voice, not that you put on a voice or that you create some character that you bring to a piece of copy, but that you know who you are and what you bring, I would say, and what is very much uh, needed in the world of voiceover. It's that I've never read for a funeral home in my life. And I know that that was kind of an exaggeration on your part, but it belies your sensibility about what your voice sounds like. And I would say that what you embody in your voice is experience and wisdom and confidence. Those are the attributes that matter. And so you're right. And it's the same for me. I'm not reading on things for 25-year-olds. I'm not reading for products that are geared toward the 18 to 25 market because we're from a different generation and we speak differently regardless of how high pitched or low pitched our voices are. We have a different cadence to the way that we speak. It's generational, you know.
Sure.
And so the things that you're going to focus on, which frankly are some of the what do I want to say, that they're the most prominent, that they're the most um, they've got the most advertising dollars behind them. Things like financials, and
Mhm.
and yes, healthcare, and yes, Medicare. and all those things that come around, Medicare Advantage stuff that comes around, in the fall every year before the window that opens for people 65, to go get their plans. So would just say, I would rather than say what style of voice am I going to cultivate, I would ask the question of who am I and what kind of experience do I have and what do I bring to the table with the wisdom and experience that I've actually lived, right? Because you got plenty of 30-year-olds with big booming deep voices who want to do financials, banks and retirement funds and investment firms, right? And while their voice may have a certain command, very often I don't believe them because they haven't lived, you know.
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah.
so what we're always after is what's authentic to who you are, right? God bless my agents. Sometimes because video games, often require something that's a little closer to animation, rather than real, I'd say real person, but a more grounded character. Sometimes they send me stuff for 18 to 25-year-old. And I'm like, pass. Sorry, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm never going to pull that off with any authenticity because I don't sound that way. I've never sounded that way even
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s. And so I would say that's really the approach. It's really an inventory of who you are, right? And what it is that you have to offer instead of looking at the market and saying, how can I shift myself? How can I contort myself really into a role that's really doesn't belong to me? It's not really mine, you know? So that's the thing to kind of say, this is how old I am. This is what my voice sounds like. What things are out there that are available to me that need my voice? That's the question. And it is true that it is um, more difficult the older we are and we're just starting voiceover. That's true, like, and I'm a bit of an example in that way. I'm 63 and I'm working and I'm represented and I get auditions every day, but I started 40 years ago. So I don't know whether or not if I was starting now, whether it would be easy or hard for me to get an agent. I think it would be hard. I think it would be really hard because because rosters are full, but that doesn't mean that there isn't work for you that you can't go get, right? It's the same thing I said to Edward. It's like you you make for yourself you record for yourself some samples of what it is that you sound like,
Mhm.
right? And um, and you get yourself a profile on Voice 123. And I know people have differing opinions about that. Like it's not some playground where you go and experiment. And I say, why not? Because the algorithm is constantly changing, and as long as you are getting better, and um, as long as you are continuing to improve, really, um, so will your rating, right? So will your standing on the site. But we have to find opportunities to audition wherever we can. And so that's what I would say is the focus. It's really about knowing who you are as opposed to trying to come up with a style, right? Does that?
Yeah. Just a super quick follow-up.
Yeah.
So let's say I picked a Ford commercial to read for copy.
Uh-huh.
So thinking that way, the wisdom and the experience, if you put that into your mind while you're reading, I think what you're saying is that's how you'll come off. Um,
It's just who you
in
are. It's just who you are. It isn't something you have to put in your mind. I don't have to convince myself or anyone else that I'm 63. I am. I am. I don't have to convince anyone that I have wisdom. I do. I've lived, right? It's all your chief concern in finding a piece of copy that you can record for the purposes of, having a sample of what you do is communicating the meaning of the copy. That's it. It's not about the sound of your voice. It's not, let's just assume everybody in the room has an interesting voice because everybody does, right? So it's really, and here is where I think being in a class would really help you to understand, right? What our primary function is, and that is to communicate. That's to convey the message of the copy, not to sound good, not to sound like a thing, but to communicate the message of the copy, right?
Mm.
And what does that entail? Well, that entails a little bit of use of our imagination that we can imagine or pretend that we're talking to someone because that makes it easier, right? Then it's like, yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm communicating something to someone who's sitting next to me, as opposed to I'm a talking head in a booth trying to make my voice sound a certain way.
Okay.
Right? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think it's a misconception of many, many people coming into voiceover. And if not all, virtually all of us coming into voiceover, that we think this is all about the sound of our voice because we're not on camera, but we're actually communicating though. That's what we are. That's what we're doing. We're communicating the message to someone. And so how do we do that? And that's where really basic, not complicated, not I have to go to Juilliard and get an acting degree kind of acting stuff comes into play. Just basic acting skills that kind of open new pathways for us to understand, use those, uh, to communicate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You are who you are, my friend. And that's a good thing. So,
Yeah, appreciate it.
yeah, you're welcome. Um, Ed Phillips.
Okay. Yeah, this is great to be here. I'm 68 too. So, um, just quick background. My background is in radio,
Okay.
and I knew from some time ago that I really do need to unlearn some things because voiceover is a totally different animal. And
Yeah.
so, been working with a coach, trying to unlearn some of these things and examine a piece of copy and go through those different steps. And it's still a lot of work to go through that because my modus operandi for years has just been okay, here's a piece of copy, you read it, bing, bang, boom. And I know that's not good. So I've got a two-part question
Yeah.
because your background is mainly in acting and voice acting. Part one, when you audition with a piece of copy before you hit record, what is going through your head, whether it's a piece of commercial copy or narration copy or whatever the case may be? How are you dealing with that piece of copy in your head and heart before recording? And then number two, when you sit down and you edit in order to submit to V123 or whomever, um, how long does it take you? And is it just editing and then normalizing and that's it? Or do you do any additional processing beyond normalizing? And so that's my two-part question.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, it depends upon the type of copy. If it's a commercial, right? Is that primarily the piece of copy that you're interested in my answer?
Well, it's right now I'm working on commercial.
Okay.
Where I feel most comfortable, sweet spot, if you will, is really corporate narration and those types of things. But wanting to stretch myself where I am being trained to this is a commercial piece of copy and so forth. And so for purposes, it's about commercial.
All right. Okay. For commercial. Um, well, the first thing I do, which I hope is obvious, I look over the piece of copy in its entirety, right? And I look at the spec if there is one. Sometimes there isn't, except male or female aged 40 to 55. Sometimes it's just that. But if it says warm, reassuring, confident, then I go, okay. And I don't think much about it because that's kind of what my voice sounds like. It just does. Like, I can't do anything about that, right? That's just where I live. Um, and then um, I think about who I'm talking to, whether I'm talking to one person, whether I'm talking to three people, whether I'm talking to a group of people. And the copy really dictates that, right? My default is that I'm talking to one person because that is kind of the style these days of just like it's very, they want something that sounds really personable and really real. And I don't think many of us are in positions where we talk to three, five, 10 people all at once. That all of a sudden we're sort of the speaker of the hour, and that's not really what voiceover is about. So I'm talking to one person, and I'm kind of asking myself, where am I going to place this person as I'm talking to them? Are they right next to me? What's our setting? Is it, and I get to make it up. This is a very important part. If it's not if it's not really defined, and there are things to look for in a piece of copy that would help me define it. But if it's not really defined, I talk to somebody who's sitting very closely to me, and it's a very quiet and more intimate conversation. And then what I do is I ask myself, what did the person that I'm talking with, what did they say to me prior to my speaking? So that every piece of copy is a dialogue. Every piece of copy is me talking to someone. Um, and then I decide, oh, it's somebody, they're very close. We're very, right next to each other, and it's very quiet. And then I figure out what they've said, and then I answer the question with whatever it is that I'm saying that's printed on the page. And that's usually my take one. And then perhaps I might, for a take two, place that person a little bit further away from me, but it's still one person. So that means I'm just projecting a little bit more. So it's the difference between talking to someone like this and the difference between talking to someone like this. It's not a huge difference, but recorded, it's a big difference. Very, very big, noticeable difference, which provides variety to your read without changing the meaning of the copy. The copy really has one purpose. If I'm telling someone about where to invest their money, that's the purpose for me to say, if you've got blah, 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 think about this company where you'll receive this and you'll get this kind of service and it'll change your life for the better. That's it. I'm not going to, how do I change the meaning of that? I'm not changing the meaning. I may change the excitement level. I may be like, look, I have a secret. I got a secret I have to tell you, this fantastic investment company that I just started working with. Or I could be really excited because of this investment company that I just started working with. Changes the copy altogether. But a lot of it is just what I think about is that it's all the creative part of recording a commercial audition. It is where my imagination comes into play and where my individuality comes into play. I'm the one creating the scenario in my head, right? And every actor is going to create a different scenario in their head, and that's why everybody's read is going to be a little bit different, you know? Um, so we got to look for the message that we're supposed to be communicating. What's the meaning of the copy? And then we get to play a little bit about how we're going to approach that, who we're talking to. And I do think rather than thinking about who the specifics of the person I'm talking to, a lot of people do that. They go, I got to see this person really clearly. It's my sister-in-law, it's my daughter, it's my grandfather, right? And I'm not that way, but that's just me. What's more important to me is their proximity, right? And perhaps if it's a friend or if it's a family member, that might shift my attitude because I'd be a lot more snarky with a family member than I would be with a friend, right? So that again, that's all personal. But those are the kinds of things that I think about as I approach a piece of commercial copy. And then what do I do to edit? I don't do a whole lot. I try to do full takes, of what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't do full takes. Sometimes the first half of a take and the second half of another take go best together, and so I edit them together and I make my one take. I think we can use editing that way all we want. I sometimes I run a stack, which in essence is a series of things that I'm doing, a series of things that sweeten the track that happen at the push of one button. It's something that's been programmed for me for a commercial read, and I just kind of hit that and apply it. And so it tends to do those things, add like normalizing, right? Maybe rolling off the bottom end or rolling off the top end, or it. So I do that, and I tend also to either decrease in volume my breaths or I cut them. But I don't. But if I cut them, I leave appropriate space where a natural breath might occur, so that the sound file isn't just all slammed together, right? But I do that because my breathing I'm a promo breather. I take big, deep breaths and they are very loud. They're not natural when I'm recording. And so I do that because I sound like, all the time, right? And so it's a habit that I developed, and I have found that that editing is the best way to undo that habit for me. And I'm very careful about, I put a half a second before my slate, if a slate is required. And then I put about 1.5 seconds between the end of my slate and the beginning of my first take. And that feels to me like enough time for a casting person to hear my name and kind of exhale and go, okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
And it starts, right?
Okay.
So if I put just half a second, I feel like they might still be like, what was that name that went by? And they're not fully present for the beginning.
Point.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I do. Nobody's ever called me on it and said, yeah, that's too much time or not enough time. That's never happened. So I'm assuming that works. If no slate is required, I will leave a full second before the sound begins. Right? So I'll put a full.
Okay. Yeah.
So does that
That's been very helpful. And just a very quick follow-up. I know there are others. Do you always do 2 reads for an audition, or it just depends? And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it depends upon the length of the audition. If the audition is a 60-second commercial and they have not specified that they want 2 takes, I will only send them 1. I tend to have this approach of um, 60 seconds is enough for them to know who I am. And I don't want to waste their time. And I don't want to make them ask the question of like, is the second one going to be better? If I, like, if they haven't asked for it, I tend to only send 60 seconds of anything. So if it's a 15-second spot, I'll send no more than 3 takes, often just 2. But with a 10-second, I'll send 3 takes. Um, if it's a 30-second, I'll send 2. And first and foremost, I send whatever they ask for. But all of that guidance about how many takes to send is really if they have not specified, then that's what I do. So I tend to kind of go, I'm going to send them a minute, whatever that is. And if it's a 60-second spot, it's 1. If it's a 30, it's 2. If it's a 10 to 15, it's no more than 3. I don't have to send them the full 60. I think you can show a lot of range with 3 takes. And every additional take that you send needs to be qualitatively different. It needs to sound qualitatively different, not just a little different on that particular word, but different. So they go, oh, well, that's a different approach that I hadn't heard yet. Or, oh, that person's versatile. They know that they can approach this from a couple of different angles. That's the response that we want, right? Not kind of like, yeah, that was just a little bit different. Subtleties, I like to say, really distinct differences are for the audition. And if you book it, then all the little subtleties of the read are going to come out, and you're going to be directed in fine tuning. That's where that's going to happen. So
Thank you so much. Thank
you're
you.
very welcome. Diana, I think you were next in there.
Yay, hello.
You had a follow-up, so I'll
Oh,
get next. So yes, tell me. I know you wrote it down, but tell me.
actually, I was going to ask you a different question. I was going to make a hard left. If I haven't booked with my agent this year,
Mhm.
do I need to be worried? They,
Are you
they,
turning in good auditions?
I, I think so, and I'm consistently training. I got put on hold last year for 3 things, and 2 of them the project got dropped, and one of them something happened with it where it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the good news is they renewed my contract earlier in the spring, and they expanded me to not only New York but LA. So I was like, okay.
And this happened last year? This happened last spring?
Just this past spring.
Well, I think you have your answer.
Okay, I just get nervous because
Okay. Let me shine a little light on this and offer you something here. As of July, I think I'm on a veil, I think, for a couple of things in September now. But as of July of this year, I had only booked 2 things when customarily, you know, when I had occasion to look back at my schedule in 2010, 2012, I think it was. And I was working 3 and 4 times a week, if not more, you know? And so I think about that, and it's not like there was just this immediate precipitous drop. It's like, no, the business just like changes, it shifts and it goes up and it goes down. And there are a lot of things bearing down on voiceover right now, including AI. And AI is real, it's a real factor in what we're all trying to do here. So, but the best way to handle this is to simply send a very short email to the agent with whom you connect the most and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm just checking in with you and making sure that my reads are competitive. Let me know if there's anything I need to change. but if and let or let me know that I'm on target.
Okay.
That's it, right? And then, the times I did that, when I was trying to move my way into animation, which is, I did that in my early 50s. You know, I I didn't book anything for 4 years in animation. I've said it a million times before, but I always think it bears repeating. I didn't book anything for 4 years and in animation. And but periodically, maybe every 6 months, I'd send a note to Heather and go, "How am I doing?"
Hmm.
And she'd say, "You're doing great. Keep going." That's all I needed. It's like, all right, I'm doing okay. It is very hard to know when you're alone in your booth and you're not getting feedback from anybody, and being placed on a veil, getting holds, booking. That's the feedback that we're after. Um, but again, with how much competition there is, it's you know, it, who know they may put three people on hold, but you were number four.
Mm.
And you'll never know that, right? But you just think your audition went out into the ether, never to be heard again, and nobody cares. And like that's the thing that we struggle with all the time. And I think then we have to find ways to reassure ourselves. One way is to train and get feedback there about your reads. And hopefully you are training, with people who can be forthright with you about whatever areas of weakness you have. And then you check in with your reps. And they are, I can't even imagine how many emails Heather Dame at Atlas gets. I mean, like, and every agent, right? But I mean, she has hundreds of voiceover clients. She's got hundreds of buyers. She's got people booking things every day. She's got the details of contracts going back and forth, right? Like, I, I think one day she told me that she goes through 1,500 emails a day, right? So this is why we don't write things like, "Hi, Heather. I know it's been a long time since it's like cut to the chase,
Yeah.
right? How you doing? Checking in. How are my, and try to ask yes or no questions,
Okay.
right?
That's
So all they
perfect.
have to do is go, yeah, thumbs up, like, and count it all good. Like, just because an agent, uses brevity in replying to you doesn't mean that the message is less important or meaningful, right? Just imagine, I can't get through the email that I have. And you know,
Yeah.
I can't, I could never be an agent. I just could never, ever, too scattered. But that's how I would, that's how I would approach that.
Cool.
Um, You did ask, have you sought out regional representation in the last decade, and has it helped? I have, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried, nobody's interested in me, you know? Like, I can't,
That's wild to me.
it's
That
I don't know if I'm not very good at, it's like, you're all now questioning, like, should we be taking advice from this woman?
no, it's wild to me that they're not responding to you.
But it's kind of like that. But I do feel like I think in the case of Nashville, let's say, like, I submitted to a couple of Nashville agents. They want local people, and they look at my resume, which is full of stuff out of LA. If you've got animation and you've got, and video games, all of which come out of Los Angeles, they go, "Yeah, she's an LA girl. We don't want her. We want our local people." And I haven't been here long enough for them to view me as being local. So, okay. But no, I haven't found any luck with that. That's not to say that other people don't. I know many people in voiceover who have 5, 6 regional agents, and they do great, you know. So again, we're all unique. Our stories are unique. The way we approach things are unique, and it's up to each of us to forge the path, and learn from everything that transpires, you know. So
Thank you.
you are welcome, Diana. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Edward,
I'm on mute. There you go.
there you go.
Um, I got a short question, but I asked you something close to this when it was you did a talk with the Nava, NAVA thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, my son's 2. That's not his name. That's how old he is. But he really likes it when I do the trailer voice. When I
Uh-huh.
do like in a world, like that kind of thing. And I know this is like a pretty ridiculous question, but I don't know. It's a weird question. It's very esoteric, and I'm trying to figure out. He loves it when I do that voice. I love doing that voice for him. I think this is a very Don Quixote thing that I'm trying to work towards, but like I'd love to try and book one gig in my life where I can, do the this summer. Like there's some real big basic type thing. I've been talked out of that idea by a coach I had previously, where they were basically just like, no, like the competition's too crazy, like you'll never get it, don't even think about doing it, that kind of a thing. Um, I don't this question is kind of a bit of a two-parter, but just like I know it's a crazy idea. I know that all the things are kind of stacked up against me in doing that. I know it's a very specialized thing. It's like wanting to be a VHS player now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, what could I do in order to try and fulfill that thing? If I get paid $40, from some regional thing, I don't care. I just want to try and work towards that. And I'm wondering if I have clips of me doing, Miffy the artist, that kind of stuff on my page are gonna quote count against me, if
I
that makes
think,
sense.
um, I think first of all, it's not corny. It's not silly.
That's good to hear.
And it's not, and these are the ways that we kind of discover what what we have inside of us. The first, my husband at the time and my daughter would laugh every time I did this ridiculous sort of royal queen voice. Oh, really? Is that what you think? Like I used to do that, and they would laugh, that's so funny. And I go, "Ugh," and and every once in a while, my husband would say, like, I don't understand why you don't pursue animation. Like, I don't understand why you've been doing voiceover for 25, 30 years. Like, why don't you do that? Oh, I'm no good at that. I'm not good at that. Everybody's so much better at it than I am. That's the mindset I had about it. Well, when I started auditioning for animation, along came a little character called Queen Cumulus, who lived up in the clouds, right? And lo and behold, I just pulled that voice out of a hat and I booked it. And I booked it because it was, by that time, I'd been playing with that voice for no other purpose than to make my daughter laugh. No other purpose. Wasn't trying to develop a character, was just like it was just fun. It was play, right? And so it taught me a lesson about character creation where it really comes out. And I know animation is different than what you're asking about, but they're connected. But it made me realize, like, oh, I have that in me. I just don't let myself play. I critique myself constantly. I tell myself I'm not good enough at that. Other people are better at that. I tell myself I'm shy, and that was a big lesson for me. Like, stop saying those things about yourself and to yourself, K-Bess. Stop it. You have this capacity. So why don't you just forget what people think of you and forget what you think of yourself and just do the thing, you know? So, um, So your desire to do a particular genre of voiceover, which is what that is, it's a genre. And you're not faking something, right? You are playing and you understand and have heard you've heard how that plays out, in a movie trailer. You know the sound of it, right? That's how I do promo because I've listened to promos all my life, so I understand the rhythm of them. I know how they work. I know how they go because I've heard them for decades, right? So I would say keep on the path that you're on to develop your voiceover career, right? You're learning, you're training, you are seeking out audition opportunities. And I can almost guarantee you, if you hold that dream in your head and in your heart and in your just like your psyche, there will come a day when an opportunity will come to you that's like, we need a trailer voice. And you'll be like, I got this. And you'll record it, right? You may not book that thing, but perhaps you might, but the opportunities will start to present themselves without you having to kind of force it or without you having to, and I hope you'll hear this, think that it's okay to be paid $40 to do it
No, yeah, yeah.
because it isn't okay. It's you have value, right? What you do and the thing that you bring is worth something, right? So if you hold it in that space, right? And I mean, I hear people say this a lot, about goals. Sometimes you state the goal, you write the goal down, right? You pin it on the booth, and then you let go and you just do the work that's in front of you, right? And it lives there. It lives there. You look at it and you say hi to it and all those things, but it's like it lives there. And I think you'll find that you won't have to force it, right? You won't have to try to jump the line in your own career to try to get something that perhaps you might not even be ready for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I just let it unfold. Is the, I tend not to be I tend to be far more practical in my approach to everything, but I've also found some wisdom and truth in all these kind of um, tricks of the trade about positive thinking, and setting goals and writing things down. Because really, when you think about it, nothing comes into existence without it having been spoken first. Nothing, nothing. Every invention had to be spoken of first. Like, what if, And then you write it down, and then life unfolds, right? The opportunity unfolds in whatever the time span might be. I don't know, but that's what I would say. But yeah,
Don't
don't
sell myself
fool
short.
your dreams,
Yeah, yeah.
It's a totally worthy goal. So
Thanks, man. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Um, hello, there you are, Ron. Oh, you're on mute. There
I
you go.
don't know if I get another question or if we have time.
It's fine. I know,
Okay.
I know we're at the hour mark, but if you've got a question,
Oh,
answer it and then we'll call it. But yeah,
I'll keep it really I'll keep it really short. I will say an aside to the gentleman just before me that I think we all want to do the with the zombies ruled the world voice. And so I'll probably put that up on my when I do a voice 1, 2, 3. I'll probably put that up as a sample.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep,
But anyway, my question is, I've been on the planet long enough where I know how much you have to sell yourself in whatever you're doing, and so I'm not at a point where I would ask for an agent. So I'm going to have to go out in the world and let people know what I'm doing and just take a chance that, they're not buying AI yet. They are looking for a human voice. So, question is, where do I start? I live here in Santa Barbara. Do I go to the regional Ford group and do truck commercials? Do I go to healthcare organizations, to their marketing rep and let them know, hey, I just as a 2-second email, here's a clip. If you have a chance to listen to 20 seconds and you need a voice, is
How
that
much,
a track you might take?
how much training have you had?
Not enough. No, I'm not there yet. I'm just trying to build that to that. I'll probably start training here. I've had voice training. I haven't had voiceover training.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's so much. There are so many people who, so many avenues, right? Yes, those are good things to do, right? When you're ready, right? And
Hmm.
again, I would thank you, Michael. Um, when you're ready to to pursue, yes, to pursue dealerships, perhaps in the Tri-County area of Santa Barbara, right? To doing direct marketing is a completely viable way of finding opportunities. It is. And but just like every opportunity, um, you got to be ready for it, right? You
Yeah.
actually have to know, you have to be, is your studio together? Do you know that you have broadcast quality recording, right? And you may think you do. I'm not saying you specifically, but we all may think we do, but have we gotten feedback on it? Have other people heard it and said, yeah, I think you sound great, or whoa, your mic is not up to standard, right? There are so many things along the way before we start pursuing work, right? And
Hmm.
it's so like again, I do not have particularly, I am no expert in the realm of marketing. That is not my bailiwick, right? But there are good people out there who do know how to communicate to buyers directly. And then there are people who, I mean, Cliff Zellman, I don't know if you've heard of him, but automotive is his specialty.
Mm.
Training, um, and and in sort of learning how the automotive market works, which is a ginormous market. It's full of opportunity, but it's terribly competitive as well. It's not a hidden market. It's like out there, like there are people in voiceover, that's all they do, and so again, it's are we prepared, right? Um, are we prepared to enter the market, the competitive market, right?
Right.
And so those are the questions I would be asking myself first, rather than how am I going to go get those opportunities for work, right? What you want are opportunities to audition, to try things out, right? To see where you stand, to see if you get feedback, right? Because I can pretty much guarantee you, if you go to a dealership and they take a chance on you and you are not prepared to do the work, they're not going to call you again.
Yeah.
And that's a drag, you know? So I would be more focused on preparation for, on training both in voiceover itself, and then also training for how to communicate and what avenues to take when you're trying to book work directly, right?
Hmm.
Tracy Lindley's course, The LinkedIn Edge, is full of great information that's primarily for LinkedIn communicating, but it just has all kinds of communication advice that applies everywhere, you know. Um,
Sure.
so that's a great class, you know. And again, Cliff Zellman, Zellman, he is also somebody um, to get in touch with regard to like instruction on both the ins and outs of of that world altogether, but also on various reads. Like he is a director and he casts, you know.
Okay.
So he's somebody that certainly would have a lot of information for you about that particular genre of voiceover.
Okay.
And the more you can connect yourself to other voice actors, the better you're going to be. So you know, if you don't have a Facebook account, you should get one for the sole purpose of getting connected inside of voiceover groups where you can lurk and you can listen to what people are talking about and you can begin to see common names that are thrown about who's good for this, who's good for that. Anybody know of somebody who does demos, you know, at a reasonable blah blah. Oh, there's this. Oh, stay away from that person. You know, like there's all kinds of information there that, again, I've said it a million times, but generally speaking, the voiceover world is very generous with their information, you know.
Hmm.
So I just think it's really important to get connected, right? Otherwise, you are reinventing the wheel every single day, right? And
Right.
you need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much out there um, that will really help you. And I do, you know, we talked about it a little bit, but I know you have a sense of like I don't have that much time, you know, but you know, you can't approach anything like that, right? You have to approach
Yeah.
I I have the time I have and I'm going to use it wisely, right? Like every one of us is in that position. We don't know. We don't know how much time we have, you
Yeah.
know? Just we got to do the work in front of us, you know? And so there's that. Bonita Voice, yes, Atlanta Voiceover Studios mentorship is a good group. That's $25 a month. I think I've told
Okay.
my group, my coaching group, uh, the Trust and Be Brave membership collection, which has two coaching sessions per month, really in any genre that you're after, um, and then a VO veteran Q&A once a month, and that's $60 a month, and it's you know it's there's no commitment. It's like if you hang out for a month and you're like, okay, I've had enough, then you can you can go. Um, but yeah, there are places out there, right, that are you know that and they all work online. So they're all available to you no matter where you live, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow, and maybe I'll read some automotive copy and see what you think. I do one quick question. Who can I send a clip to just to tell me that yes, your studio sounds good and is at the right level? Is there some place I can go with that, or maybe send it to a local recording studio or
That's a good question. Um, you could send it to um, yeah, that's you could you're getting some answers in the chat. You've got Dan Friedman, got
Mhm.
George the Tech. I know both of those people. I don't know Nate Bagel, but Diana, that's I don't know that. Is that and is he searchable?
Yes, I can put his website in the chat. He's a voice actor and an audio engineer, and he's a former puppeteer.
Right on.
So,
Interesting.
um,
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. All those guys are good. I don't know what they might charge for that, but I would expect, some kind of charge for the time. Some of them might not charge. I don't know, but I would just expect it. Um, so yeah.
Okay.
But they're out there. Yeah, for sure.
Good. Well,
Uh,
thanks again. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
I
Very
will see you tomorrow at the same time.
fantastic. Look forward to it. Diana, anything else for you?
No, you're the
No?
best. I'm cheering you on. I want you to be on more Star Trek. That's all. That's what I want.
I'm trying to I'm trying to make my way into cons. It's a very